Club Penguin. The massive multiplayer online game released by New Horizon Interactive in 2005 has influenced countless people worldwide. Whether it was the game's community, cool items to collect, puffles to adopt, or the awesome minigames to play, Club Penguin cemented itself as the king of children's online games until its eventual shutdown in 2017. Today, however, we're not going to linger on the history of Club Penguin itself. Today we're going to look at the history of Club Penguin minigames and what made them so awesome. Hydro Hopper, located at the docks, sees your penguin partake in possibly the most dangerous wakeboarding a penguin has ever attempted. By using the mouse to move left and right and jump, you must avoid obstacles such as ducks, periscopes, and then eventually ramping it up to sharks, icebergs, and even buoys. Failing to avoid any obstacles results in you losing a life, and honestly the game can get pretty tricky towards the end of the run once it starts throwing this shit at you. If anyone watching was good enough to get the Master Navigator stamp, then well done to you, because I sure as hell couldn't. Originally added to Club Penguin on October 24th, 2005, Hydro Hopper was among 4 games that are considered the original minigames as they were all added first on the exact same day. However, Hydro Hopper dates as far back as the year 2000, where Club Penguin developer Rocket Snail created for the Green Bay Bible Camp, where it was called Ballistic Biscuit. It kept its name in Club Penguin all the way until 2007, where Hydro Hopper won a vote conducted in issue 99 of the Club Penguin Times, an in-game newsletter. Astro Barrier, the second game of the original 5 minigames, is another single-player experience mirroring closely to the likes of Space Invaders. Located upstairs from the nightclub in the arcade, players must move the spaceship left and right to aim shots at the various targets. Disappointingly, this is the first minigame to enforce limits on how much a non-member could play, in this case being only 5 levels before blocking progression. This minigame was also the first to have secrets. These were 2 hidden level packs in the game, only accessible to members of course, these being the secret levels and the secret expert levels. These were both accessible by waiting on the tutorial screen for a light blue ship to appear. After shooting it, the corresponding pack will be unlocked. Both packs were considerably harder than the normal set of levels, with beating all 3 packs awarding players with the only expert stamp for the minigame. Originally until December 30th, 2005, Astro Barrier only had 20 levels, with levels 21 to 30 being added on that date, and with levels 31 to 40 and the hidden secret and expert levels being added on July 21st, 2006. Also, during the April Fool's Party of 2008, Astro Barrier and Thin Ice were both unavailable to players, with the 2 games being morphed into the abomination that is Thin Astro Barrier. Yes, this is a real thing, and I'm all for it. Once again, I don't know what it is with these original minigames and just having kind of ridiculous stamps to complete, but Astro Barrier's Astro 30 Max is just insane. I'm the kind of player that likes to go for 100% when I play video games, but this one just evades me. Basically, it boils down to you having to complete all 30 normal levels without missing a single shot. Bean Counters, the third original Club Penguin minigame released on October 24th, 2005, is another single-player experience where players must unpack a truck full of bags of coffee beans. Located in the coffee shop, the player must catch the bags by moving across the screen and return them to the collection area, while also avoiding many obstacles that are thrown out with the bags, such as fish, vases, and literal anvils. There was even a secret alternate game mode called Jelly Bean Counters, which completely changed up the gameplay by giving you jelly beans rather than coffee beans. Nah, I'm just kidding, they actually made it harder by forcing you to pay attention to this wheel while also only delivering jelly beans of that colour, completely throwing my golden strategy out the window. To be perfectly honest, I've hardly ever played this one. I'm sure it has its fans, but it just bores me after 2 rounds. The jelly bean mode is a fun twist on the concept though, I'll give it that. Wait a minute. How can the truck make its delivery if Club Penguin is an island? Mancala, 4th of the original 5 minigames, is actually one of the oldest games in human history, adapted by Rocket Snail for Club Penguin of course. Records of Mancala go back as early as the 3rd century, with evidence to suggest that the game probably existed in ancient Egypt. Mancala, located above the coffee shop in the book room, is a gameplay between 2 players, the goal of the game being to collect more stones from the board than your opponent. It was the first minigame of its kind to implement a viewing system, meaning that other penguins could watch the game while it was taking place. Funnily enough, the bar for entry when playing Mancala was high enough to warrant having the rules as a permanent object in the room, helping players understand the game. Just like Ballistic Biscuit, Mancala was originally made and released on the Rocket Snail Games website, however it was called Mancala Snails and featured a few different visual changes. Despite reading the rules, I still have no idea what a good strategy for this game is, so I usually end up getting absolutely rinsed by random people whenever I attempt to understand this game. Sled Racing. Released as the 5th and final of the original minigames, and located at the ski hill of course, this fan favourite game sees you pitted against up to 3 other penguins in a downhill tube race to the bottom. Players have to avoid obstacles such as rocks and tree logs while also utilising ramps to jump over obstacles and ice patches to speed you up. There are 4 different runs that the player could use, each providing a different number of penguins that could race. These were Bunny Hill and Express, which allowed for glorious 1v1 sled racing action, Penguin Run, which allowed for 3 players total, and Ridge Run, which was the longest run in the game and allowed 4 players to race each other. Alternate sleds and tubes were also provided for members, offering no advantage and being purely cosmetic. Thank God. Honestly, I think this minigame in particular was so popular with players because of the fact that it was multiplayer, which added a fun element of competitiveness. Plus the fact that this minigame had no restrictions to non-member players, meaning that anyone could enjoy the fun. Puffle Roundup, the 6th minigame added to Club Penguin, was released on December 14th, 2005. Originally located at the snow forts before being moved to the Puffle Park, this minigame has you push puffles around the screen using the mouse, with the goal being to guide them into the small pen to collect points. Each different coloured puffle is also worth a certain amount of points. Surprisingly, for being such an old minigame, this one saw updates all the way until 2011, with new puffle colours being added, so here's a quick fire round of that. Purple Puffles on August 11, 2006, Red Puffles on October 19, 2007, Yellow Puffles on November 25, 2007, White Puffles on February 26, 2009, Orange Puffles on October 22, 2010, and Brown Puffles on March 22, 2011. And now for one of the funniest glitches that I just have to mention. At some point in the game's history, if a player was to complete 3 rounds, quit, and then start another game, then they would be kicked from the server instantly. That's gotta be a traumatizing core memory for someone out there, surely. Personally, this minigame never really captured me. I think the simple fact that I could walk outside and recreate the game with ants and a couple of pencils added up to this game really just boring me. Club Penguin's 7th minigame added was Ice Fishing. Released on March 10th, 2006, and located inside the ski lodge building, Ice Fishing was a minigame in which players lower and raise a fishing line using the mouse in order to catch fish, or while avoiding obstacles that swim past, such as crabs, jellyfish, and sharks. Failing to avoid these results in losing a worm, which you get 3 to start with. Losing all of your worms ends the minigame early. The player has to catch 60 fish before the final boss of the game comes along, the prize mullet. He can be caught using one of the standard yellowfish as bait and nets you 100 extra coins as a reward. This minigame benefited from its own set of game upgrades, allowing members to purchase the flashing lure rod, which unlocked the ability to catch greyfish, which were worth more coins but were a bit harder to catch. They also awarded a series of member-only stamps. This one is just special to me. The music in particular is just so iconic, even if it's only a 30-second loop, but I reckon it's the perfect music to just zone out and catch some fish. Released on April 27th, 2006, was Club Penguin's 8th minigame, Find 4. It's literally just a game of Connect 4. It is located both upstairs and downstairs in the ski lodge. I don't even know what you guys want me to say about this one. The counter colours are red and blue as opposed to the standard yellow and red from the board game. This was the second game to implement the viewing system started by Mancala, meaning other players could spectate the game. One thing I could say is the game isn't too clear on who won at the end, so if you're not paying attention, this can be a little confusing. But yeah, it's just Connect 4, I really don't know what else to say. Next game. Club Penguin's 9th minigame, Kart Surfer, was released on June 6th, 2006. Located at the mine, players must control their penguin in a minecart as you barrel down a narrow mine shaft while performing tricks. This is undoubtedly one of the most popular games on Club Penguin, as it wasn't locked in any way for non-members, plus it was a great way to grind for coins if you had all the stamps. Players have 11 tricks at their disposal, all yielding different points when performed. However, spamming tricks gives you less points, incentivizing a little bit of strategy when playing. Interestingly, according to a tweet from developer Chris Hendricks, aka Screenhog, Kart Surfer was originally an entirely different game called Cave Runner. However, this game was scrapped last minute when the developers realised that the game just wasn't that fun. Based on this screenshot, I assumed the gameplay would just be using the arrow keys to move left and right, which is fairly similar to the controls for Puffle Rescue, so maybe this idea wasn't completely scrapped after all. Also, side note, how strong is our penguin? They're able to pick up an entire minecart and spin it around, and apparently minecarts alone weigh this much? Our penguins never skip a day at the gym apparently. After completing the test and becoming a secret agent, players were able to enjoy Club Penguin's PSA Missions, released on August 18th, 2006. These missions were a series of point-and-click minigames which took players through the origins of the Penguin's secret agency before they rebranded into the Elite Penguin Force. 11 missions were released total, with the first 3 being one-off stories. However, the rest of the missions were all based around Herbert P. Bear, the antagonist of Club Penguin. These secret missions ranged in length and had all kinds of little secrets to be found in them, such as Gary's room, which had references to developers Screenhog and Rocket Snail, as well as Gary's collection of all the pins released up to that point in Club Penguin's history. The story elements of later missions even had an effect on the game itself, as after the ending of Mission 11, the Veggie Villain, PSA's headquarters and the sports shop were heavily damaged due to Herbert's popcorn bomb, hence sprouting a mini-event starting in May 18th, 2010, where both rooms and the Ski Village location showed signs of the damage. By May 25th, the sports shop was permanently closed and replaced with the Everyday Phony facility, where the PSA missions were moved to the VR room. I remember having a lot of fun playing the later missions once Herbert started to be involved, but I do remember constantly getting stuck and having to look up guides. Club Penguin's 11th minigame was Jetpack Adventures, released on November 6, 2006. Accessed from the beacon, players would navigate their penguin using the arrow keys through a side-scrolling obstacle course while using a jetpack, all while avoiding obstacles, collecting coins, and refueling when necessary. There were 5 levels total, with unfortunately only level 1 being accessible to non-members after the introduction of stamps on July 26, 2010. The first 3 levels have you flying outdoors, with a transition into cave levels at the end of level 3. One of the coolest attention to detail moments in this minigame is when you inevitably game over, you will spawn back in a different room on the path to the cave, further creating the illusion that you are just jetpacking over everything in Club Penguin. This can be further seen by finding these hidden landing platforms on the map screen of the game. Stamp-wise, this game can be pretty cruel. Ace Pilot by far takes the cake here, requiring you to beat the game without collecting any coins, which means having to squeeze yourself through bullshit gaps like this, and wasting the rest of your fuel at the end so you don't get any bonuses. This one's just fun to me, man. The attention to detail while falling over parts of the map and being able to take your green Puffle alongside you creates a fun experience overall. Has Ace Pilot made me fear coins for the rest of my days? Of course, but that hasn't really affected my life in the slightest. 12th in the release order of minigames and the second arcade game, Thin Ice, was released on December 19th, 2006. You control a flaming black puffle as you move around the board and melt the ice behind, while trying to get to the goal. The challenge here comes from the fact that once you've melted a tile of ice, you cannot go back on that tile because you fall in the water. Extra bonuses in the form of stamps and more coins are awarded to players who manage to figure out how to clear all the tiles before reaching the goal. A healthy 19 levels were released for this game, with non-members only being able to access up to level 10 before being locked out, meaning that 5 of the 9 stamps were unobtainable without membership. Fun fact, each board actually has 2 variations, with slightly different layouts from one another. This was clearly made in an effort to make sure that players couldn't just learn the layouts once and blitz through the game each time, which I actually think is pretty clever. There's actually quite a few cool details like that when it comes to this game. For example, the black puffle on the end screen will have a totally different expression depending on how well you did. And when accessing the secret room through the false wall in level 19, a coin bag will appear for every level you completed perfectly. This minigame holds a special place in my heart. It's just so relaxing to me. I think the fact that it's one of the only Club Penguin minigames that doesn't have any kind of time limit, as that usually just ends up stressing me out. Pizzatron 3000 was released on February 26, 2007, and was located at the Pizza Parlor. This game has you assembling pizza orders while the base slides across a conveyor belt, forcing you to add the ingredients before it reaches the end. It starts off pretty slow and relaxed, but blink and suddenly it's going warp speed and has you putting ingredients on at literally the last minute. Just like bean counters, Pizzatron 3000 had an alternate game mode called Candytron 3000, which changed out the pizza ingredients to be more candy related. This mode yielded more coins but was more difficult than the standard game mode, as the harder recipes could appear at any time instead of slowly ramping up the difficulty. This game mode could be accessed by pulling a switch on the main menu. This minigame is clearly a fan favourite, and I definitely know why. It's the perfect combination of easy to understand, hard to master, and just listen to that soundtrack, it's perfect for a minigame like this. I just don't know what the hell these ingredient combinations are though. Squid and grey fish? I get that the penguins live on an island and everything, but you wouldn't catch me dead eating some of these pizza combos. Catchin Waves, Club Penguin's 14th minigame, was released on June 4th, 2007.
Located at the Cove, this minigame sees you surfing the waves as you take part in 4 distinct game modes. First is Surf Lesson, which teaches you the basics of the minigame. Freestyle, which lets you go wild and do tricks until you run out of boards or the minigame times out. Competition, where you have to perform as many tricks as possible to impress the 3 judges, who all prefer different tricks. And finally, Survival, an endurance mode where you have to surf a very fast wave for as long as possible, all while avoiding icebergs and sharks if you make it far enough. There are 12 different tricks that you can perform while surfing, these being the Icebreaker, Coastal Kick, the Blender, Lazy Wave, Backstand, Surf Fever, Shooting the Tube, Front Flip, Backflip, Grind, Trick and Grind, and Spin. Doing all these tricks in a single freestyle session gets you the Trick Star stamp. When doing research for this video, I came across this fact that I just have to share. Despite Catchin Waves releasing on June 4th, the Cove area itself actually predates it and was released on May 24th. This is because Club Penguin had a small partnership with Sony at the time and wanted to delay the release of Catchin Waves to align with the release of Sony's film Surf's Up, which premiered the same week. This minigame is great, but I can never seem to get the hang of the controls once the wave speeds up. And honestly, if the Lazy Wave scores that many points in real life surfing competitions, then I'd be a world champion. Club Penguin's 15th minigame was Aqua Grabber. Released on February 19th, 2008, it has you control a small submarine using the arrow keys to collect various underwater treasures. This minigame was originally part of a mini-event called the Save the Migrator project, as Rockhopper had crashed on the way to Club Penguin, leaving parts of his ship scattered underwater. Finding all the parts of the ship within the time limit would award players with the Golden Wheel pin. After popular demand from the Save the Migrator event, the minigame stuck around and was given a big expansion on August 6, 2008. This included officially naming the first level, Clam Waters, as well as expanding the area from the Migrator event and giving us mission criterias. Aqua Grabber's second level, Soda Seas, also released on this date and was available to non-players before being locked after the release of Stamps in 2010. Unlocked missions also now saved to your account, meaning you didn't have to unlock them every time you wanted to play them. I do quite like this minigame. The music is just super calming and the game itself isn't too tricky, apart from the mullet capture stamp. We don't talk about what I went through to get the mullet capture stamp. I also love that they released a super neat toy for the Aqua Grabber, which definitely contributes to my love for this minigame. Paint by Letters was Club Penguin's 16th minigame, released on March 10th, 2008. Located on the shelves in the book room, this minigame is a typing game where players must practice by typing the story one line at a time. Some lines also gave the players a choice between a couple of different options, allowing for a bit of variation at the player's wishes. There were 3 books released for this minigame, those being My Puffle and Burnt Out Bobs, and Lime Green Dojo Clean, released a year later on February 3rd, 2009. All of these books were written by head Club Penguin moderator Polo Field, aka Chris Glidden. This was also the first minigame to be completely removed from Club Penguin, with Paint by Letters getting the axe on June 14th, 2012, with email support citing the reason as the game wasn't being played often enough. Kind of a shame it got removed, honestly. I really think these books could have been a great vessel to teach kids how to type while keeping it entertaining. However, I do see the shortcomings of having a game structured like this, as after you've finished all the books there's not really a huge reason to go back and do it all again. April 28th, 2008 saw the release of Treasure Hunt, Club Penguin's 17th minigame. This minigame is located inside the captain's quarters aboard Rockhopper's ship the Migrator, meaning this minigame is only able to be accessed when he's visiting and docked at the beach. This game sees you and one other player working together to uncover as many gems from the sandpit as possible. This is achieved by picking a row or column depending on which player you are. Each dig cuts into one layer of the sand, with most of the valuable gems being on the third and bottom layer. The players get 6 chances to dig each. This minigame also saw a seasonal update in December 2008 after Rockhopper went overboard decorating the Migrator. Coins were replaced with peppermints, rubies with candy canes, and emeralds with baubles. The sand was also changed to snow. This Christmas variation would only come around if Rockhopper visited around Christmas time, otherwise it would just be the standard layout. I think I was somewhat tricked as a kid into thinking I loved this game. While it's cool and all that it's one of the only minigames where players must work together, it's not all that replayable, especially considering you can get all the stamps in less than 5 games. So yeah, I think the fact that this minigame was only ever available to play a couple of times a year definitely tricked me into enjoying the game more than I actually did. DJ 3K, the 18th minigame, was released on July 25th, 2008. Located in the nightclub on the DJ table, DJ 3K was a music creation game where players could select a variety of loops and sound effects to create music for their igloos. Bringing a yellow Puffle into the game also yielded more coins, because of the Puffle's favourite game system. Basically, most of the Puffles have a favourite minigame, where bringing them in gets you more coins. These were Aqua Grabber for the pink Puffle, Kart Surfer for black, Jetpack Adventure for green, Dance Contest for purple, Catching Waves for red, and DJ 3K as mentioned for yellow. This minigame was also the second to be completely removed from Club Penguin, with the minigame being swapped out for SoundStudio on July 17th, 2014, meaning the poor yellow Puffles didn't have a favourite game after that. As a yellow Puffle enjoyer myself, that sucks. I've only ever experienced this one through Club Penguin Rewritten before it was shut down, and even then it was just alright. SoundStudio basically took this minigame and made it way easier to use and understand in my opinion.
Oh boy, here we go. Club Penguin's 19th minigame, and arguably the most famous, was Card-Jitsu. Released on November 17th, 2008, and located at the dojo, this minigame sees you playing a revamped version of rock, paper, scissors, using cards and 3 elements. Water beats fire, fire beats snow, and snow beats water. If 2 players play the same element, that's where the card's numbering system comes into play, with the highest number winning in that case. In addition to the regular cards, there was also power cards. These cards usually had a number of 9 or higher, and more often than not had a special ability tied to them. These abilities range in usefulness, such as preventing your opponent from playing certain elements next turn or reducing the number on the card, but where these abilities get sadistic is with the cards Rock Hopper, the Veggie Villain, Knight's Quest, and Puffle Rescue. These cards all have a value of 12, which is already hard to beat, but the card effect is changing any snow cards played against you to water, meaning the worst outcome when playing these cards is drawing. You cannot lose when you play these cards. The goal of the game is to play matches against other penguins to increase your belt colour, all the way until black belt where you play against Sensei and can earn your ninja mask. It's no wonder this minigame was so popular with players, easy to understand conceptually, completely free to all players, and highly competitive. In fact, this minigame was so popular that it spawned its own real-life trading card game, which saw 7 sets released before its retirement. I absolutely love these cards if you couldn't already tell. There's just some charm about reading the little descriptions and looking at some of the pre-Disney artwork. The power cards are here as well, shiny and all. Oh god, no! Dance Contest was Club Penguin's 20th minigame, released on January 15th, 2009, and was located in the nightclub. This minigame is a rhythm game that sees you performing songs in a layout similar to Dance Dance Revolution. Just like DDR, you get scored on how good your timing is when hitting notes, with a ranking being awarded at the end of the song depending on how well you've done. 6 songs total were released, 3 being for non-members and 3 being locked behind membership. These songs were The Generic Way, Penguin Band Boogie, and Epic Win for the non-member songs, and Let's Bounce, Go West, and Patrick's Jig for the member-only songs. Borrowing further from the rhythm game genre, each song has a difficulty level ranging from easy, medium, and hard, and also the secret expert difficulty if you clicked on cadence to access it. I'm a big fan of rhythm games, so naturally I enjoy this minigame. The lag does get quite annoying at times though, so I recommend lowering the graphics settings if you don't want to have any interruptions. Also, the charts aren't particularly difficult if you played other rhythm games similar to this before. Card-Jitsu's second iteration, Card-Jitsu Fire, was released on November 23rd, 2009 for member ninjas, but shockingly wasn't fully available to all players until May 9th, 2013, alongside Card-Jitsu Water and the newly released Card-Jitsu Snow, but we'll get into those later. Card-Jitsu Fire, located in the Fire Dojo, is a spin-off of Card-Jitsu. However, this version is more akin to a board game rather than the card game focused original. The game can be played by up to 4 players, with each penguin starting with 6 energy points. Tiles are then chosen from a ring in the center, which show numbers to dictate how many spaces you can move in either direction. After choosing a space to land on, 3 scenarios can play out. The first is the Elements tile, where if landed on, a battle with that specific element occurs. The second is the Cycle of Elements tile, where the player that landed on there gets to select which element they wish to play. And finally, the Card-Jitsu spaces, where a standard game of Card-Jitsu will be played out. Battles on the Element and Cycle tiles play out as follows. Each player selects a card with the matching element, and then all get revealed at the same time. The card with the highest number then wins the battle, and the other players that lost the battle lose 1 energy point. Losing all points means you're out of the game. A super fun fact that I found while researching this video is that the Club Penguin development team actually made a real-life replica of the game during its development. This is featured in the 2-part documentary Waddle Down Memory Lane, made to celebrate Club Penguin's life before the release of Club Penguin Island.
Personally, I'm very mixed on this minigame. It takes an insanely long time to unlock all of the fire suit parts, as games of Card-Jitsu Fire run significantly longer than games of Card-Jitsu. Also, I don't believe this game is particularly balanced either. I'll explain. When you first start your Card-Jitsu journey, you're given a starter deck. This contains 10 cards with only 3 of them being power cards, the only 3 cards which all have a value of 10, which isn't even the highest value in the game. Now consider going up against a player like me who spent an insane amount of coins buying more cards to add to my collection. I've had hands in Card-Jitsu Fire where every card in my hand is a power card that has a value higher than 10. It just isn't fair to players that either don't know where to buy more power cards or simply haven't bought more. I'll bring this up again during Card-Jitsu Water, as it's a problem there as well. But yeah, the rich get richer when it comes to Card-Jitsu Fire, I guess. Probably isn't the message the developers wanted me to take out of the experience. Puffle Rescue, Club Penguin's 22nd minigame, was released on March 15th, 2010. Located at the mine, this minigame is all about rescuing Puffles from dangerous situations in 3 different map locations, with each of these locations featuring just 3 different level layouts that would cycle and increase in speed each time. These map locations were the ice levels, the only level pack available to non-members, where players must traverse little icebergs and logs to rescue the Puffles while avoiding sharks or missing a platform. The cave levels, where you had to navigate through abandoned mines with limited vision while avoiding minecarts, trapdoors, and boiler pipes. Scarily enough, the minecarts didn't follow a set speed like the obstacles in the ice levels, making navigating them a bit of a nightmare. And the underwater levels. These are interesting because once you step off these safe platforms, you have a limited amount of time to reach the next one, indicated by your penguin growing smaller. The first level also housed a secret. By following the bubbles made by this giant squid, players could find a secret staircase which unlocked the underwater room, located in the hidden lake. This minigame is just alright in my opinion. The lag in particular affects the cave levels quite badly, and obviously I can't strike points against it for lag, but it certainly plays a factor. Also, some of the stamps in this game are just ridiculous. Extreme Cannon and 30C levels in particular come to mind. Club Penguin's 23rd minigame release was yet another iteration of Card-Jitsu, Card-Jitsu Water. Released on November 24th, 2010, and located in the Water Dojo, this minigame sees players race on a grid of stone tiles atop a waterfall, using their Card-Jitsu cards to break various elemental obstacles on the way. The first player to the gong at the top wins the minigame. As usual, fire beats snow, snow beats water, and water beats fire. Where it gets interesting though is the size of the obstacles in the way. If it's a larger obstacle than compared to others around, more often than not it'll take 2 standard cards or 1 power card to remove, which again plays into my whole complaint about these games being pay to win to some extent if you don't own very many power cards. This is certainly the fastest iteration of Card-Jitsu, as games usually don't run for more than a minute, which is nice, but it can be a little disheartening if your opponent gets a really good run and just beats you in less than 10 seconds. Fun fact, one of the stamps, Water Expert, is a bait item. Bait items, for those who might not know, are a way for the developers to check and ban cheaters. The condition to unlock this stamp was to get 100 wins, but if an account had this stamp unlocked without having 100 wins, then it would set off the alarm bells and they would be banned. There's actually a huge list of bait items on the Club Penguin wiki, and I'd encourage anyone interested to go and have a look there. It gets super weird with mascot only items, for example. Again, I'm kind of indifferent about this minigame. I really enjoy the concept and how fast the matches are, but it can be a little too short at times. Also, I really don't want to think about what happens to my penguin if I let them fall off the edge of the waterfall. System Defender, the 24th Club Penguin minigame, released on January 14th, 2011. Located in the EPF command room and accessible to all EPF agents, System Defender is a tower defense style game that serves as the EPF's cybersecurity measures. Players collect energy from defeating enemies and earning it passively, and spend it on towers to further bolster the defenses. Basically, if you played any tower defense game, like Balloons or Plants vs Zombies, you'll definitely understand the concept here. This minigame had 6 levels by the time Club Penguin shut down in 2017, with all of them being slowly released every few months during 2011. These levels were Rogue Bugs, Herbert, Klutzy, Test Bots, Ultimate Protobot, and Track Herbert. Each level followed the story of Herbert P. Bear attacking the EPF systems, with the final level being a hold-off mission as the director attempts to track down Herbert's location. After completing the mission, you find out that Herbert is located in the toughest mountain. Later that same year, starting on August 25th, 2011, Operation Hibernation was launched under the guise of it being an extreme sled racing competition. This mission was all about sneaking into Herbert's secret base and putting him into hibernation. The operation was a success, but Herbert's right-clawed friend Klutzy escaped. As a big fan of tower defense games, naturally I love this minigame. I do wish it had some sort of free play mode of sorts, but I understand why they kept it to a level structure. Some of these levels are no joke though. I actually had to run one of them on my old laptop so it would run slower, as this affects the movement speed of all the enemies. Puffle Launch was Club Penguin's 25th minigame, released on March 14th, 2011. This minigame sees you firing your Puffle out of cannons and controlling them in midair with the arrow keys, with the goal of the game being to collect Puffalos and stop Klepto the Crab from stealing them. There were 3 different level packs released: Blue Sky, which was available to all players, and Soda Sunset and the Box Dimension, which were limited to members only. After collecting all the Puffalos in every level, a time trial mode would be unlocked, adding up the players' best level times from each level into one big total. Players could then revisit levels and speedrun them in order to get the timer down to earn a couple of stamps, with getting the timer under 18 minutes awarding players with the third mode, Turbo Mode. After beating every level in Turbo Mode, a slow motion feature is unlocked, and you are rewarded with the final Extreme stamp from the game. Also, just quickly, look how adorable it is that every Puffle colour got their very own helmet design. Just a great attention to detail there, especially with the theming on some of these. Personally, I like this one, but I don't love it. The standard mode where you collect Puffalos is nice and relaxing, bar a few annoying vague spots in some levels, but the time trial mode is just plain annoying to me. These levels are clearly not meant to be rushed, and I definitely had to resort to guides when I had no clue how to shave any more time off. This licensed plushie I found at an op shop one time is pretty cool though, so let's end that on a positive note. The 26th Club Penguin minigame was Bits and Bolts. Released on March 28th, 2011, and located in the arcade, this minigame has you clearing blocks with cogs on them in order to build robots, which each require a particular amount of cogs to be assembled. It is commendable that Club Penguin implemented a game that actually has some kind of learning in it, and while this is very basic addition skills, I can still see the practical element behind it. You may notice I'm waffling a little bit, and that's because beyond what I just described to you, there really isn't much to this game. It basically just goes on and on like this forever and continues to ramp up the speed until you eventually lose. Notably though, this is one of the very few minigames that have no stamps to collect at all. Makes sense to me though, beyond level completion stamps I really can't think of much more that happens in the game to merit stamps being added for it. So yeah, sorry Bits and Bolts fan club, I'm not a fan of this one. Pufflescape was Club Penguin's 27th minigame, released on November 3rd, 2011. Located in the pet shop, this game is a 2D side-scroller, seeing you controlling one of your Puffles in a hamster ball as you navigate icy caves, all while collecting Puffalos to earn more coins, and moving certain obstacles with the mouse. 23 levels were released for this minigame across 3 different level sets, these being Entrance, Depths, and Legend. After collecting all the Puffalos in a level, players would unlock the Extreme mode, which sped up the physics of the level to create an overall harder challenge. This minigame's development is actually a lot more elaborate than you'd expect. It was originally beta released as Rollerscape on the beta team website, which was basically a secret website that any player could sign up for, and then were able to beta test features for the Club Penguin team. Other notable projects tested on this website were Puffle Bowling, Skyscraper, and Pizza Oven. Beta Team, however, was purely a beta testing environment, and players would not receive any kind of reward for participating, unlike Club Penguin Improvement Project from 2008, where players would receive the red hard hat for their troubles. I really do love Pufflescape. It's very relaxing just to blitz through the levels and earn some coins, and it is one of the better ways to grind for coins if you have all the stamps unlocked. Although I do have to question the ethics of putting your Puffle in a hamster ball and letting them roam around in dangerous caves though. Smoothie Smash was released on August 30th, 2012 and was Club Penguin's 28th minigame. Located at the coffee shop, this minigame sees you bouncing on a conveyor belt and smashing fruits in order to fulfill smoothie orders for the penguins that come by and request them from you. It was first introduced during the Adventure Party Temple of Fruit. This minigame had 2 game modes: Regular, which had a time limit of 2 minutes and saw you filling out orders for customers to earn coins, and Survival mode, which had you bouncing from fruit to fruit, avoiding missing and hitting the conveyor belt so you wouldn't lose the game. Stamps are rewarded for reaching certain time requirements, such as one of the expert stamps requiring to survive for 8 minutes. History-wise, this minigame is way more interesting than you'd expect. According to a report from the Drum UK in early 2012, the British smoothie brand Innocent was teaming up with Club Penguin to promote healthy eating. The first promotion was codes for Club Penguin items printed on Innocent's products for kids to redeem in-game, with a sweepstakes competition also being held to visit Innocent's Fruit Towers headquarters to invent their own smoothies. Also mentioned at the bottom of this article by Rockhopper was that as a part of the collaboration there was to be an online fruit party, which would go on to be the adventure party later that year, where Smoothie Smash was added. I'm a big fan of this minigame. The survival stamps do get a little bit annoying, but with some practice they aren't too bad. Also, after doing research for this video and finding out that this minigame is basically a promotion for healthy eating, I think that's pretty cool. Hats off to you, Club Penguin. The EPF Spy Drills was released on May 9th, 2013, and was located in the command room. It was Club Penguin's 29th minigame. It replaced Field Ops, which was a mini-mission released every week for EPF agents to solve, with the players getting medals as a reward. Field Ops came to an end in the first place after the events of Operation Blackout, where Herbert destroyed the EPF command room. Spy Drills has two game modes, these being Train, where agents can hone their skills without any pressure before moving on to Challenge, where players must finish 3 scenarios back to back without mistakes to earn medals. There were 10 different scenarios an agent could train in, these being Circuit Match, where players must match the symbols from wire to wire in order to overload the system, all while under a time limit. Code Break, where players have to crack a code by selecting a symbol. The game then tells you if the symbol is in the wrong spot, correct spot, or completely wrong. You have 6 chances to get it correct. Firewall, where you move from left to right and match the symbols correctly before it falls to the bottom, with the speed increasing to make it harder. Code Decrypt, where you have to find specific spinning shapes in a grid within the time limit. Lasting 10 rounds means you win. Chip Maze, where you guide a battery with the arrow keys to chips to charge them up, recharging when necessary and avoiding obstacles. Grid Command, where you have to enter X and Y coordinates to destroy enough targets before time runs out. The Navigator, where you have to input a series of commands to guide a bot to the corrupted systems. It's very similar to these B-bot learning tools that you may have used in primary school. Radar Strike, where you guide a remote-controlled snowball with the arrow keys. This one makes no sense to me though, as I always seem to shoot past the objective even while only pressing one key. If anyone can explain to me what I'm doing wrong, that would be brilliant. Rhythm Lock, where you listen to the tempo of the locks and then recreate it using the spacebar to unlock it. Big fan of this one. And finally, Tumblers, where you're given a number between 0 and 360 degrees and must match the correct degrees with the number given. This gets steadily harder as the game removes numbers, forcing you to rely on memory and intuition. Until researching this video, I hadn't really given this minigame much of a chance, as I'd barely even played it before, but playing it now, I'd say some of the scenarios here are worthwhile. Definitely not all of them though. Looking at you, Radar Strike. Card-Jitsu Snow, Club Penguin's 30th minigame, was fully released during the Card-Jitsu party on May 23rd, 2013. This minigame is a co-op game played on a 5x9 grid on a snowy mountain, and has you pick one of 3 available elements to play as. Snow, which allows you to heal your teammates, Water, which has the higher attack and health but the lowest range, and Fire, which has middle of the road stats all round. The game is played in turns, so each player can decide to either move, attack, or use a power card on their turn before the enemy CPU gets theirs. You fight 3 main villains across most of the game, these being the 3 evil snowmen, Sly, Tank, and Scrap. However, there is a final boss for Card-Jitsu Snow, Tusk. Tusk's lore is actually far deeper than you'd expect, with fully animated cutscenes available to players to explain everything. Basically, when Sensei was younger and hadn't learned the art of Card-Jitsu yet, he used to be friends with Tusk. But then Sensei outshined Tusk at building things out of snow, so he became jealous and bitter, which led to their rivalry. This rivalry comes to its climax, as after you complete the snowsuit, you unlock the previously blocked cave and can challenge Tusk himself. This boss fight is super cool, as Sensei himself is able to help you out during the fight. This minigame is certainly the most in-depth out of all the Card-Jitsu variations, and I'm a big fan of it. It is sort of a pain to get 3 players together to play, as the wait time after picking an element can get a bit ridiculous, but it's worth it to play such an awesome minigame. The cutscenes here are something special as well, man. It really feels like the developers put everything they had into this final iteration of Card-Jitsu. Club Penguin's 31st and final ever minigame was SoundStudio, released as a part of the Music Jam Party on July 17th, 2014. Just like DJ3K, SoundStudio was a music creation tool where players could create tracks to play on their iglus and share with other players in the nightclub. There were 5 different genres of music to pick from, with each having their own set of loops and one-shots, these being pop, rock, dance, dubstep, and spooky. Big fan of spooky personally. In fact, the music you've been hearing in the background is actually a track I created using SoundStudio. I wouldn't say I'm particularly adept at creating music, but honestly using this minigame I thought was a lot of fun. You get this cool looking dashboard with heaps of different options for you to just go nuts on. I will have to take points off though because only members could save their tracks, which I think is pretty sad. Neither this game nor DJ3K had any stamps either, so this one is purely just for messing around. But yes, I'm pretty happy with this banger I've created using the minigame, and honestly, from what I've heard of other players' work, it's all pretty fun stuff. Although you will hear the fart sound effect played over and over again in most tracks, which I can respect. And that's it, folks. That's the history of all 31 Club Penguin minigames, as they were before the shutdown in 2017. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. This has been an ongoing project for quite some time, so I'm glad it's finally out to all of you. Also, shoutouts to my friend Akira Inu for helping me play the multiplayer minigames. Big thanks to you. I think it's important to acknowledge what Club Penguin did. In the early years, it's commendable how much they stuck to their core principles, make it safe and make it fun. Of course, in the later years with the Club Penguin buyout, it did get a bit bloated with licensed tie-ins and locking previously free content behind the membership paywall, but overall, Club Penguin was something special. If this video has inspired you to go back and try some of these awesome minigames again, I'd recommend you check out the new Club Penguin community, a fan-run private server of Club Penguin. But personally, I'd take a look soon, as it's all too common these days for private servers to be shut down unceremoniously. Take Club Penguin Rewritten for example. And if you see me on the server, please say hello. I'm always willing to help out other penguins with stamps or just to have a chat. Lastly, if you want some more awesome Club Penguin content, I'd highly recommend you check out Chris Hendricks, aka Screenhog's YouTube channel, as he worked on Club Penguin from basically right at the start, and has some fascinating videos covering Club Penguin from an insider's perspective. Chris, if you're watching this, thank you for creating some truly special experiences for me and countless others worldwide. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, do not do drugs, kids, it is bad. See you later, everyone. Bye bye.